The Story of a Lonely Mother, a short story based on true events, by Vahid Sajidifar.
The night quietly spread over Tehran. The streets were bustling with the noise of cars and people, but our house was filled with silence. Unlike previous years, these days, our home is quiet. Of course, Hamid and I are thrilled by our children's happiness abroad, which makes their absence bearable. Today marks the 9th year since Farhad's departure, and about 3 years after him, our daughter Farnaz also packed her bags and migrated. Both of them had been successful in Tehran, studying at the prestigious Sharif University of Technology. Given the economic and job crises in Iran, it was evident from the beginning that the future of these talented young people was tied to emigration. One day, Farhad, with a bitter smile on his lips, said to me, "Mom, I feel like this place is no longer where I can grow and end up successful. All my efforts are in vain." I sighed and replied, "I understand, my son. I think the same way. No matter how hard you work, the economic and social conditions won't allow you to reach what you deserve." Farhad nodded and said, "I remember how hopeful I was when my grades and achievements at Sharif University caught everyone's attention. I thought the path was open for me. But now I see that without support and proper facilities, I can't reach my goals. Look at Ali. He stayed at Sharif University until he finished his PhD but couldn't find a suitable job after defending his dissertation just because he didn't have connections. Ali had to start driving his car as a taxi until he got a good offer with a high salary for a postdoctoral position in Australia, and he left." Farhad looked out the window and continued, "We are talented young Iranians, but here we face numerous obstacles like economic instability, lack of support for research and innovation, and social restrictions. These problems have combined to push us away from our homeland, even though each of us is a national asset and can help solve our country's problems." I asked Farhad, "Is there really no other way? Don't you think you could stay and fight to improve the situation?" Farhad looked deeply into my eyes and answered, "Maybe it's possible, but it takes a long time, and in the meantime, the opportunities and lives of young people like me are wasted. Emigration might be the only way to help us achieve our dreams sooner and make the best use of our talents and knowledge." After a moment of silence, Farhad continued, "You know, Mom, I always dreamed of registering my inventions in Iran and bringing them to fruition. But when I see that even getting a small research loan requires going through endless hurdles and begging everyone, I lose hope. When I see that even after registering an invention, no one values the innovation and there is no future or income for me, I stop trying." Tears streamed down Farhad's face as he continued, "I always wanted to become a university professor and teach my students what I've learned and use my research to help advance science and humanity. But now I see that with the current state of the country, it's impossible for someone without connections to become a professor." I said, "Aren't you afraid? Emigrating to another country with a different culture and language has its challenges and is not easy. Being away from me, your father, and your sister will surely bring you a lot of loneliness in a foreign land. Don't you fear facing these challenges?" Farhad replied, "Honestly, I'm very scared, Mom. But fear is always a part of life, that's what you always told Dad. We have to take risks to achieve something. Mom, a person never gets anything for free. The cost of a bright future for young people like me is being away from family and homeland, enduring loneliness. In the end, we can also find new friends there. You can visit me every year, and we can have a great time together." I told Farhad, "But you mustn't forget why you're leaving. Always remember that if the situation in the country improves, one day you'll return, and together we'll work to build a better Iran. The knowledge and experience you gain over these years might one day be transferred to your Iranian students." After convincing me, Farhad convinced his father that emigration was the only option left for him, and we had no choice but to say goodbye. Farhad soon received a good acceptance for a direct PhD program from Stanford University and headed to the United States. About 3 years later, my daughter Farnaz, with her brother's guidance, got accepted into a doctoral program in her field at Stanford University and emigrated. Farnaz's departure was in the fall, and the yellow leaves of the trees were gently falling to the ground. A cool breeze was passing through the branches, and the rustling of leaves echoed in the street. In my heart, I was praying for my children's health and success, even though I was far from them. I hoped that one day our home would be filled with laughter and joy again. I knew that their emigration was for a better future, but nothing could fill their absence. With a heart full of love and longing, I was spending every day waiting for the moment I could embrace them again. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, pulling me out of my thoughts. I rose in surprise and went to see who it was. When I opened the door, I was greeted by the kind face of Fatma, my old neighbor. With a smile, she said, "Hello, dear Narges. How are you? I've missed you and thought I'd stop by." Happily, I invited her in and took her to the yard to have tea together. Fatma, noticing my red and puffy eyes, asked with concern, "Narges, is something wrong? Why are you so upset?" I sighed and said, "Fatma, I miss Farhad and Farnaz. No matter how much I talk to them, this longing doesn't lessen. The house feels so empty and quiet without them." Fatma nodded sympathetically and said, "I understand, Narges. 3 of my children have also left, and I miss them every day. But we have to remember that they are striving for their future, and that gives us some comfort." With tears in my eyes, I said, "Yes, I know they're working hard for their future, but some days I just can't bear this loneliness. Every day I tell myself they might come back home one day." Fatma took my hand and said, "Narges, be patient. Children always return to their mothers. They may be far away, but their hearts are with you. The most important thing is that they are healthy, successful, and happy." I replied, "You're right, Fatma. I have to be strong and proud of them. But sometimes this loneliness is overwhelming." The next day, I was sitting in the living room, holding a cold cup of tea. The silence of the house enveloped me. I looked at the old photos of my children on the wall, tears welling up in my eyes. I thought to myself, why are these days so hard? I glanced out the window. The street lights were dim. I remembered when Farhad and Farnaz were still small and would ask me to tell them stories before bed. A bittersweet smile crossed my lips as I whispered, "Those were such good days, and they passed so quickly." I went to the kitchen and put the kettle on. While waiting for the water to boil, I wondered, where are Farhad and Farnaz now? What are they doing? Do they think of me too? Every morning, I woke up hoping for news from my children. But most days passed without any contact. With a heart full of longing, I stared at the phone, waiting to hear their familiar voices. I had promised myself to be strong, but it isn't easy to always stay strong. When this intense longing overwhelms me, I tell myself, "Narges, you have to be strong. Your children have left for a better future. They need your support, even from afar." On days when the longing is too much, I take refuge in happy memories of the past. I remember how I raised them with love and effort, always trying to provide the best for them. Quietly, I tell myself, "You did your best. Now it's their turn to succeed and reach their dreams." Sometimes, I look at the messages from my children, reading them over and over, savoring every word. I feel proud of their achievements, but the longing still haunts me, weighing heavily on my chest at night. I was lost in my thoughts when my phone rang. Farnaz called to tell me that she and Farhad would come to Tehran in 2 weeks to visit me and their father. After talking to Farnaz, I felt a new energy. Every morning, I woke up early, tended to the garden, and planted fresh flowers. I loved flowers and always said they needed attention and care, just like children. I knew Farhad and Farnaz would only stay for a few weeks, but it didn't matter. Just holding them in my arms would bring me immense peace. Summer had arrived, and our home had come alive again with the presence of the children. The sound of their laughter and conversations filled the house. We went shopping together, strolled in the park, and cherished the moments we spent together. Yet, We were well aware that in a few days, we would have to say goodbye again and return to our solitude.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.